KFAN, we're going all out for America's 250th birthday. We're dropping $250,000 in cash. How about that? Each weekday through July 3rd, you could win your share of it with $2,500. Listen for the keyword, enter it at KFAN.com, starting at 8 a.m., and plan your ultimate U.S. adventure. And just a programming note, about an hour from now, in fact. An hour from now, early 11 a.m. hour, you'll hear today's keyword, your shot at $2,500.
Ben Goessling is scribe extraordinaire.
Hardcore football.
Covers the Minnesota Vikings for Star Tribune as a podcast, Access Vikings. Then there's also a newsletter at Ben Goessling via X. Best place to learn more about all that. And Ben will be at Minnesota Vikings training camp Tuesday, which is today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, and make that Thursday. Okay, 3-2. Ben will be at all 3 days of Vikings minicamp, and he joins us now. Good morning.
Good morning.
Do you think this is a situation where O'Connell lays out 3 minicamp days, and it's like low-key or privately, go lights out Tuesday and Wednesday, and I'll wipe away Thursday? Or is it 3 days of mandatory minicamp? Dare we say he knows all the quarterbacks need as many reps as they can get? Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, coaches like to do this with these things where they'll plan it for 3 days and then they move it. They'll take a day off of it or whatever, or it's the old thing was, this was probably 10, 15 years ago, everybody would say, hey, we're going to do team building and we're going to go bowling or we're going to do paintball or something. I mean, there's been variations of that, and I think a lot of times now people say, we're just going to give you the day and give you a little more time back. So, yeah, there are times where coaches will kind of move the goalpost in a favorable direction for the players because it's an easy way to build some goodwill and make people happy. So, yeah, I could see that if they felt like they got their work done. Mm-hmm. These stretches for them are different under Kevin O'Connell than they were under previous coaches, certainly under Mike Zimmer, where it's not going to be as rigorous as what we've seen other teams do. It'll be a lot of space in there for teaching and space for talking between plays and, a lot of...
So like class on the grass.
Class on the grass is the phrase he will use, I'm sure, on Thursday when he talks to the assembled reporters. That is much more of what we're going to see from this. So if they feel like they got enough of that between minicamp and the OTAs that have happened, I could see them doing a shortened version of this. We'll see how this goes. But and they've got OTAs next week, but I think a lot of the understanding with that last week of OTAs after minicamp is if you're a veteran player, mm-hmm. you probably you can exercise the optional part of that part of the offseason program and be fine.
So with mandatory minicamp and the off the organized team activities that had media access, what does the scribe look for the next 3 days that can be pertinent for 6 weeks from now when training camp begins?
Well, there are, I think, a few things come to mind. There's only so much extrapolation you can do on the lines of scrimmage because nobody's in pads. It'll be a lot of guardian caps. It'll be a lot of, things that don't resemble football in the way that it will when you put pads on in training camp. And even then, when you go into people being tackled and that sort of thing, coming in preseason and regular season games, obviously. So you have to take some of that with a grain of salt, but I will be interested to see how they use some pieces in that front seven. We probably won't see much of Caleb Banks yet, but Dominique Orange, I'm interested to see a little more of. Jalen Redmond, obviously, is kind of the fixture of the middle of that line, but how they put pieces together in that group, I think is going to be interesting to watch. And then, how Jawan Jennings continues to fold into this offense, I think is going to be interesting to watch. We talked with him a little bit, last week at OTAs, and I think seeing how they use him and how they continue to build him into things will be fascinating to watch too. And I mean, the quarterbacks obviously are the main thing. How each of them look, how that I don't tend to be a big let's glean a lot from the rep division at this point type. I'll watch it, but it's not something that I'm going to probably hinge on and say this is going to tell us exactly how the quarterback competition is going to shake out. But
Fair.
How they look, how Kyler Murray does in this offense, how J.J. McCarthy's mechanics continue to evolve, the throws he makes, the decisions he makes. I think all of that stuff is the more intel and the more observations you can get on those things I just think it's useful. So, my eye will be on that quite a bit as well.
All right. Well, how much do you look at who's playing with whom? So say they're cutting 100 plays.
Yeah.
And say it's 33 each and Kyler gets the extra one.
Mm-hmm.
How closely do you look at X amount of times Murray was with Jefferson and Addison? If you truly are trying to decide a winner of a race, well, then, that matters, right?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely it does. And you watch all those things, and they can mix and match on some of that stuff. But, yes, that is kind of the telltale of who is throwing to Justin Jefferson, who's throwing to Jordan Addison, who is throwing to T.J. Hockenson. That whole setup is definitely worth watching. And if all of those reps are going to one quarterback, if Kyler Murray's getting all of the reps to Justin Jefferson, that's an indication of what they're thinking. It can change. I think there's plenty of time for that to play out. But, yeah, if it goes that way, I think it's certainly one of those things you make note of and, kind of keep in context at this point that it is still June. It's not anything that anybody has to make a final decision on. But it tells you at least what they're thinking at the moment, I guess.
How much better should they be at quarterback and with that room, the quarterback's room, compared to last year?
I think they have prepared themselves for a lot more adversity than they did last year. I think the fact that you have a room now that I would think is how this is going to look in terms of the people you have in it, rather than what they did last year where it was Sam Howell and then, this isn't working. We need to go blow this thing up.
Sam Howell, though.
Yeah, we need to blow it up a week before the season. I don't think they're going to go through that again. And I think a lot of what they did was to avoid that scenario, because I think those years, last year and then 2023, sit in the craw of the head coach in a way that he's like, I want to avoid doing this and just going through this experience again, however I possibly can. So I think the fact that they have 4 in that room, 3 of which have been in the building for at least a year, and 3 of which have been NFL starters, 2 of which have been NFL starters for a longer stretch of time, it gives them the ability to say, a couple of them got hurt, we can still survive, more so than I think they would have been able to do last year, because you bring Carson Wentz in late last year and you're still trying to get him acclimated to the offense, and he was able to do it, but having more time in it now, I think, is going to be more helpful for them. So, yeah, I think the depth overall, they're just prepared for a few more things to come at them than they were last year.
If you were in Covenant Court and the scribe was being grilled,
okay,
how would you handle this? Okay, scribe, would you under oath, under football oath,
okay,
would you concede the battle for the starting quarterback job is between Kyler Murray and J.J. McCarthy?
I would, yes.
Okay. Now, would you agree with, acquiesce, and or concede the loser of that job will not be the backup quarterback? They'll go from battling down to the wire to play against Green Bay to number 3, and that Wentz is number 2.
I think I think there are a lot of ways that could go. If whoever loses that job, my question will be, what is their response? What is their camp's response? Because
hold on. When we were talking about that earlier, we forgot about the camp's response, like the agent and family members and friends. That matters.
The camp matters.
Yeah, we left that out, and that matters.
Yeah.
Continue.
Yes, because I think whoever loses this thing is going to be in a spot where they're at a pivotal moment in their career. J.J. McCarthy would be, if he loses the job, then he's heading into this is year 3 for him.
Year 4.
Yes, he would finish year 3 if he's in Minnesota as a backup that still only has 10 NFL starts. The 5th-year option decision comes after this year, and you're starting to say, okay, where is my career going? Am I going to be in a place where I can compete for a job. It may not be here if Kyler Murray wins the job and they say, yeah, we want you to be the guy long term because Kyler Murray is still in his 20s. So if it works that way, I could see J.J. McCarthy's camp saying, you know what, we want to be in a spot where we feel like there's a better chance to come back. Because when you lose a job, it's hard to get it back with the team that benched you. I mean, that just doesn't happen very often.
Jeez.
So how that would go, I think, is worth watching. And then if, say, J.J. McCarthy wins the job, Kyler Murray also is in that kind of Sam Darnold spot where he needs to have a year to get himself back on the market and kind of reboot his reputation and show people that he's still worth a long-term commitment. So whoever does not win that job is going to be in need of a place to show that. And I wonder what kinds of conversations that will trigger.
Fair.
So, the number 3 quarterback may be a moot point because it may be that one of them is not here.
Mm-hmm.
This is probably dumb. This Carson Wentz thing, when he signed is kind of fascinating to me because he does join the team late, and the nature of how quickly he was able to ascend. So now fast forward throughout, the shoulder nearly falls off and everyone was worried about him and that Chargers game was ugly, but now he's here, and the stability and the trust has been a big part of the conversation between PA and I.
Yeah.
And that leads into the competition that you guys are talking about. And it may not be a fixed race intentionally, but is it technically fixed given what PA and I were talking about during the open hour, the trust in the equity of a Kyler versus the trust in the unknown of JJ moving forward into 2026?
Well, that's a good point because the Kevin O'Connell comments at the Combine about the baseline at the position where you have a certain level of play. And some of that baseline that he's talking about is durability, where that's a question with J.J. McCarthy. Certainly after last year, that's a question with Kyler Murray, given some of the injury issues he's had. So the baseline of which one stays on the field is part of this conversation. But I think when he says baseline, some of it is completion percentage, ability to put together productive drives that don't go 3 and out, that can help with field position, can put the team in scoring position, all of those things. Ability to make big plays downfield. And McCarthy hit on some of those things last year, but I think they would like to see that come back into the offense a little more, plays that get Justin Jefferson going and allow him to be what he is, which is one of the best receivers in the NFL. So if you get that, I think they feel like they're going to be pretty productive. And can you get J.J. McCarthy to give you that baseline? You're not going to have anything new to go on other than training camp and, whatever they do in the preseason. There is a little bit of a projection. You would have to feel pretty good about, hey, he's made the changes that we want to see. He has shown the level of progress that we need to get to this kind of foundational level of play. So the fact that Kyler Murray has had more of that in his career, I do think plays in his favor. Now, a lot can still happen, but I would say the burden of proof is probably on J.J. McCarthy to show that I've changed enough that, yes, you can give me this back. I mean, the benefit of the doubt that he had last year is probably not there anymore. So I think it will come down to, if he's going to win this job, he will have done enough for them to say, yeah, we can't keep this guy off the field. It'll have to be something like that.
All right, additional stupid question. So you shoehorn Carson Wentz in here, and I think, what was it, a 1-year, $3 million deal? It was right around the time free agency started. Is that a situation where he gets assurances? Now, in terms of, that there is a spot for him on this team is what I mean, because joining the team as he did late in the equation, showing he can get up to speed, as positive as that was, as needed as it was post the ankle with JJ week 2. The fact of the matter is he could have waited until camp and potentially had assurances of his own in terms of linking up with a team that truly did need and had maybe a greater possibility of winning a starter job. I just wonder how that conversation went with Carson.
So when you say assurances, like what kinds of assurances are we thinking about here?
I mean, just the idea that, this is, whatever we do, and we know that Kyler's in the mix and J.J. McCarthy's trying to get better, that there is a spot for you on this team, that you're not going to OTAs to go through the motions. You're not going through mini camp and eventually we're kicking you to the curb in late August and we're leaving you pockets turned out without a spot to be. I'm curious how that kind of stuff works because, again, so much time focused on Kyler and JJ for good reason, but Steady Eddie, Carson's just chilling right now and he probably has as good a grasp on the playbook, probably the most stable of the three in terms of being up to speed and ready. I just wonder when he joined the team back in March, KO's like, no, we're going to have a spot for you. Like, we need you here, Carson.
Yeah, I think that's probably right. And I think the fact that he got a contract that wasn't a veteran minimum deal and he got it when he got it also tells you how they feel about him. And because, could you move on from that? Sure, you could. But I think the fact that they did it as soon as they did and that there's a little bit of money in it, it's not, break the bank money, but there is a little more to say, yeah, we do value you and we see you as part of this thing. So, yes, I would imagine that he is going to be here. And I think the stability that they get out of him is important given some of the durability questions they have with those first two guys. So, yeah, I think it's going to be a situation where he's on the team. Max Brosmer, I would imagine has, we talk about burden of proof. Max Brosmer is going to have a lot of that to do as well, where you can have young quarterbacks, but I think part of the reason they brought in Wentz brought Wentz back and then brought in Murray is to say, we don't have to tie ourselves to a young guy developing really quickly. We have alternatives to that. And I think that's important to them. And all of this conversation about the baseline, I think is part of that, where we have guys that we know can run an offense at a functional level because we've seen them do it for multiple years in their NFL career. Maybe not at an MVP level. I mean, I guess Wentz played at an MVP level in 2017 and Kyler Murray has had, years and stretches where he's looked awfully good, but they at least have shown we can keep ourselves in games with this guy. And then you pair that with this defense. I think they feel pretty good about it. So yeah, I think Wentz is here. And I think a lot of the reasons for the stability they get out of him are part of the reason that he is going to be on the roster.
Ben Goessling, Star Tribune, at Ben Goessling via X. He's the learned scribe. This is 9 to noon.
KFAN welcomes some great shows to the Mystic Amphitheater. The Guess Who will be there June 25th, 311 and Dirty Heads on July 11th. And John Mellencamp will be there July 14th. Get the complete details on all upcoming shows via the concert page, KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
Do you think Harrison Smith joins at training camp?
At training camp, I think would be I'll back up. If it were to happen, and I'm still not sure that it will, if it were to happen, I think it's late. I think it's in like the, a preseason game or two has been played and he comes in, he's in shape and they're fine. I mean, the stuff on Gilmore.
It's like Brett Favre and the White Horse over Yellow Mountain.
Yeah. If we see the SUV picking him up from the airport, I mean, I don't know that it'll be quite as much of a ballyhoo as that was with Favre, but
he can fly his own private plane.
That's true. Yeah, he's got his pilot's license.
Don't even need to go down and get him.
Got to go get the tail number. Harry, if you're listening, you want to text me the tail number of that plane. We'll keep an eye out for it. But I don't know if he's got his own plane, but he probably doesn't. But he can fly one if he were able to get access to one to fly himself back up here.
Does Learned Scribe have steam? Flores loved safety Jacoby Thomas into the draft, and if so, does that mean said safety plays a bunch?
I do have steam that he did love Jacoby Thomas, yes. I think he will have if he can show that he can handle it, because rookies typically don't play a ton unless they've shown that they are kind of ahead of the curve. But I think they feel very good about what he can do in this defense. I think there's a little bit of a feeling that he can be, kind of a Harrison Smith, play a little bit of that role. I want to hedge because there's a lot of, to just throw around a comparison to a guy that played 14 years and made 6 Pro Bowls, and that's not something you just do willy-nilly. But I think they feel good about his ability to make calls on the field and grow into a role where you're a little more of that lieutenant, a little more of that, quarterback on the field in conjunction with Metellus and Van Ginkel and some of the people that they have, Cashman.
So that would be Thomas if he played a lot, running the back end of the defense like Hitman did?
We'll see. It would be something I think they'd probably give him a little more rope as he shows he can handle it. But I think they feel pretty good about some of his acumen to do things like that. So we'll see how that goes. We'll see if he grows into that. But I do think they see some of that potential with him. So, yes, they are high on him, and I would imagine if he does well with what they give him, they will not hesitate to give him more.
With the right to change the opinion as the steam comes to the surface, is this Andrew Van Ginkel's last season with the Minnesota Vikings?
It could be. It's one of those things. He's in a contract year. He's in his early 30s, so that will be a discussion about what that looks like for him, because dollars and playing time usually track together, and if you are to get another contract, you have to probably show that you're going to be durable into the future. And Jake Golday is a guy that I think they see not as, again, heir apparent is hard because Van Ginkel does some things that you just don't see many people do. I remember talking to Harrison Smith about this and asking him, have you ever seen anybody do the things that he does? And he was kind of going back through his memory banks. He said, I don't think I have. And again, a guy that's been around that long saying, yeah, I don't think I've ever seen this is a pretty high compliment. So I think it's hard to assume that you're just going to recreate everything he does, but a lot of what they see in Golday is probably playing in that spot, growing into that role where Dallas Turner probably plays the Grenard type role in this defense. So if Golday progresses, that maybe makes it a little easier for them to say, we're not going to make the same kind of commitment to Van Ginkel financially that we did. And then it depends on, what does he want? Does he want to be back in a different type of financial setting? We'll have to see how that goes. Obviously he's from the region and this is the team I think he wants to be part of. So that could play into it as well. But I think we're certainly heading to a pivot point there. It's a natural course of action with his career and where he's at.
Will there be anything to be gleaned today, Wednesday or Thursday, with the third edge? All right, so you got DT, you got Van Ginkel. So is Golday battling Richter and Tyler Batty? Yeah. They used Redmond on the edge a little bit in sneaky fashion last year. Tyrion Ingram Dawkins.
Yeah, that'd be the other one.
So he was like stone cold defensive lineman, defensive end.
Yes.
And I didn't learn until yesterday, reconfigured his body a little bit. So they might use him at edge, right?
Yeah, I think that's possible too. He's a guy that they felt like could play in a number of different spots and just do some unique things. So I think how they, kind of arrange that group and how they mix and match a little bit is, it's worth watching. And some of that will play out in training camp as well. But yes, they do have some questions to answer there with no Grenard. Grenard has been their
third
most
edge
productive pass rusher. Yes, it is. And you need players who play a lot of snaps in that spot because they like to have packages where they'll have 3 or 4 pass rushers on the field. You need people that can, if they're playing in those fronts where it's not many defensive linemen with their hand in the dirt and you have guys standing up as rushers on the edges, they like to have a lot of those to throw at people. And if you're the third one, it's not like you're going to play 10 snaps a game. It's going to be more than that. So you need people that can be productive in those spots and do a number of different things. Yes, I think that is a role as we go through the quote unquote second string, which is, kind of a misnomer in this defense, but that type of player, a third safety, those types of guys in this defense, the way they use people, that's more than your traditional, he's not in the starting 11 as it's written on the lineup card. So you don't worry about that as much with those spots because they play really important spots in this defense, play important roles. And I think the third edge is definitely one of those people.
I'm envisioning more reps for Jay Ward this year.
Agreed.
So now you got Metellus, got Theo Jackson, got Jacoby Thomas, possibly Hitman, Jay Ward.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a good situation for Flores.
Yeah, it is.
But Ward came together a little bit last year, don't you think?
Yes, at the end of the year especially, he got more run, and I thought he played better. He's a guy that has some corner experience, too, which is one of the reasons they drafted him. I mean, they like those players that are corner safety combos because they like to play big nickel where you have a safety in the slot, and then you can do different things with them. We've seen Metellus do that, and they just need help at corner. So, yes, I think Jay Ward, one way or the other, probably is a bigger part of this defense going forward. That's definitely a guy that I would imagine we're looking at the end of this year and saying, boy, this is a lot different than what we've seen before.
Yeah.
Do you think over the next few days you're going to get a chance to understand how they might try to implement Max Bredesen? So early in the show, PA kind of set the frame for a talker, like ways that the Vikings are better. It's difficult for me to say that Max Bredesen is better than a CJ Ham, but maybe future projection is maybe we're a little more versatile in that spot. And there's a Frank Smith aside to all of that, et cetera. But just kind of understanding the run game, do you think you'll get a chance maybe to see some of that play out? Not just even Bredesen, but maybe the rushing attack in general over the next few days?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit. I think a lot of that stuff, especially with the run game, I tend to think is a little easier to glean in training camp when the pads go on and, you're putting people in different situations. But I think where he lines up, I mean, it's not going to be so much how he looks because it's just not the same indicator as regular training camp stuff will be. But where they put him, how often he's on the field, how often they're in a two-back set, or him playing in line possibly as a kind of H-back type role, I think will give a little bit of an indication of what they're thinking because they clearly want that role to stay in their offense. I mean, CJ Ham staying around as long as he did tells you that they valued the role, but they also valued him for a lot of different things that he could do. The fact that they replaced him is an indication that they still value the role. It's not just about CJ Ham and he's a guy that does all of these unique things, and he plays special teams, and we love him in the locker room. He's a good leader. Let's keep him around. I mean, it's not just that anymore. It's, no, this specific spot, this specific role still has a place in this offense. I mean, you think about, Alec Ingold in Miami or Kyle Juszczyk in San Francisco. That type of a player, I think they see a utility for, and Bredesen probably gets a chance to flesh that out over the course of the next few weeks, both this week and then as we get into the end of July, beginning of August. So it's worth watching because I do think this run game is going to have a different flavor. I think Frank Smith is a big part of why this looks a little bit different. And then you bring in a guy like that to replace CJ Ham. It does tell you a little bit about their intentions. And I think it still involves a fullback, more than you'd see in a lot of places.
Are there going to be replacement officials this season? Has that been solved?
I think they got the deal done.
Okay, they got the deal. I kind of knew that I missed something, but I just wanted to make sure. Good. When players are gone for a month and a half beginning next week, does the scribe get much needed rest during that time?
Yes. This is the time of year where everything kind of quiets down for the most part. You see coaches, GMs go on vacations as well, and it's the thing you're always hoping to not get is the message from editors saying, hey, this happened.
Wizinator.
Yeah, or in some cases worse than that, obviously. The Kyrie Jackson stuff from a couple of years ago, I was up at my parents' cabin 4th of July weekend, and then that text comes in of, hey, we got to check into this. And Kevin O'Connell's talked about that, where it's just those messages, those phone calls, nothing good tends to happen when somebody is contacting you urgently at that time of day and when players are supposed to be on a break. So I think a lot of the reminder to players this week is be smart over these next few weeks. And yeah, that's really the only thing that kind of interferes with it, where, if it's a legal situation or, I suppose the Brian Flores stuff playing out in court could, come to some kind of resolution. We'll see. I mean, that could have a long ways to go too. But if there's some kind of a settlement on that, that would feel like that has a Friday news dump in July written all over it, because it's just kind of how these things
go. Is it
go.
that far along?
No. I mean, they are. It's heading toward open court, but I think the NFL probably would say, we don't really want this to go to open court, because we don't want a ton of discovery that becomes publicly accessible to people like me. So, there's a price on that at some point. Yeah. I could see where somebody says, okay, let's kind of put this thing to bed.
Wow. So B-Flow might be double dipping here. Just a fat deal from the Vikings and a fat deal from the courts.
It's possible. We'll see how this goes. I mean, it could be that the NFL says, no, we want to play this out, and we're going to drag this out a while. I mean, that could go any number of ways. But I'm just, if it were to get done, that feels like a Friday news dump kind of thing. But yes, this is the time where you get rest, and it's fun for me because my girls are still young enough. I mean, they're heading into 9th grade and 6th grade, so the time is going quickly here. But you do get that time. We refer to it as daddy camp in the summer, where I just get to hang out with my kids for a lot of the summer, and it's super fun. So I'm very excited for that part of it.
Time for 2 more.
What's how deep is your radar, and what's the level of urgency on Brian O'Neill's contract for the new GM and company?
Well, I think it's something that they're hoping to get done. I mean,
before a mid-July news dump.
Yeah, probably. I mean, you'd like to have that resolved in some fashion as they head into the season, because you can lower the cap number if you get an extension done. And it's a matter of, this is a guy that, yes, he's in a contract year. Yes, he's in his 30s now, and you have to figure out, what that looks like long term. But I think, the stability that he has on that side of the line and the voice that he is in the locker room, they want to keep around. So I would imagine there's an extension of some type to lower the cap number and give him a little bit of security heading into the season. And this would be year 9 already, I believe, for him in Minnesota. That's kind of wild to say that. But, I think that will be something we see, I would imagine, gets done. We haven't, seen exactly Nolan Teasley's approach to these things as it compares to previous regimes, but Rob Brzezinski obviously is involved in a lot of the contract discussions, and I would imagine that there's some resolution to that as we head into camp.
With the right to change the opinion? Lastly, who's the team to beat in the NFC North, and why?
Boy, I mean, it is so wide open. It's like, I mean, you would say the Bears just because you figure Caleb Williams gets a little better, and another full year where he's a little more solid, and I like a lot of the things that they've done around him. But I think the Vikings will be interesting. I think the Lions will be better than they were. I have a feeling they'll be, out for blood a little bit here after the way last season ended. And the Packers, it probably depends with them on Micah Parsons and how quickly they get him back, if they're going to be a team that can be a serious factor. I guess I would say the Bears. Just
Lions, 4th place schedule.
Yeah, there's that too. I mean, the Lions, I think, have a lot of talent, and you do get, you get the Cardinals instead of the rest of that stacked NFC West. I mean, that was the thing at the end of the season. It was going to be the Cardinals or the 49ers for the Vikings, depending on how that worked out. And it's the 49ers in Mexico City instead of the Cardinals on the road, where that's effectively a home game. So, those kinds of breaks in a division that's going to be very competitive again could make the difference. I mean, those little scheduling things of when you catch somebody, what's your rest compared to somebody else's, what's everybody's injury status when you play them. I imagine the division is going to be very tight again. So I could see, I'll say the Bears just because they've earned the right to defend it until they lose it, to quote Michael Jordan, another Chicago superstar of magnitude far beyond Caleb Williams. But I could see this going a number of different ways. I like the Lions. The Vikings are intriguing, and the Packers, if they get Micah Parsons, I think are a factor too. It'll be fun. This division is as competitive as it's been in a long time, and I don't think that'll be any different this year.
That was some high-end
hardcore football.
See you in Eagan for minicamp.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Ben Goessling at Ben Goessling via X News du Nord next.
This is 9 to noon, live on iHeartRadio and KFAN, The Fan. Keep listening for the next chance to win.
What up? It's News to Nord, brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. And there's live racing in play, so check out the live racing calendar at the website, CanterburyPark.com. But feeling the felt, poker, blackjack, and table games at my favorite spot in Shakopee. Check out Canterbury Park. And check this out, some news courtesy of The Athletics. Michael Russo and The Athletics, Joe Smith. Sounds like this guy, he's going to be wearing our favorite colors for the Wild for the next 6 years.
Come up, the puck out of the box is Boldy. Nick Foligno chiseled it free. McCarron. McCarron steps in on side, rumbling in right circle. He scores! Oh, Michael McCarron beat out at your stick side. The Wild have a 3-2 lead.
Again, courtesy of Russo and Joe Smith, the Minnesota Wild have signed Mike McCarron, Big Mike, to a 6-year, $19.8 million contract. That averages $3.3 million a season. Again, thank you, Russo and Joe, for a little news bomb on a Tuesday morning. The courtesy of The Athletic. Subscribe today, theathletic.com. Minnesota spent a hefty price at the deadline. They used a second-round pick to acquire McCarron from the Preds. And this is a nice little payday for a guy that had never made more than $900,000 in a season in his career. The 2013 first-round pick, Mr. McCarron, 6'6", won a bunch of faceoffs, 54.5% of those faceoffs, by the way, in the playoffs. He's 31 years old. And just pulling a quote here, this is from McCarron himself. I think obviously you have a GM and a coach who wanted me to come in here and help the team. And when someone gives up what they gave up to get me, I think that it shows that how much they wanted me. So try to return the favor. At the same token, I think I'm at a point in my career where I haven't really taken the next step financially or had quite the security, I'd say. I guess that's what I'm looking for. So he found what he believes to be some nice financial security in terms of a 6-year contract, $19.8 million for Mr. McCarron.
What if the only way to get Dylan Larkin was to re-sign McCarron so he could be traded to the Red Wings?
I always love that one.
He plays center, so does Dylan Larkin.
Well, how about this? As I did not read farther down into the article, but I'm just going to verify this.
What do you
just
got?
going to verify it. Michael McCarron, 31 years, as I mentioned.
No trade?
He's from Grosse Pointe, Michigan.
Now, that's
he's
amplifying the bit.
I think he's a Detroit kid.
Emphasis, well, so is Larkin. It's like I read some story over the weekend where I think he's from Michigan.
Oh, he spent his whole life there. Absolutely. But now he's on the way out.
Yeah. Well,
he wants to go.
You know what, Dylan? Handle it. Okay? Call Nolan Teasley.
I always love that one.
Every day of his life in the state of Washington, he came to the cornfields. Was awfully happy yesterday when 9 to noon sat down with him for 17. With the 9 minutes we had with the GM yesterday, he seemed very happy to be here at the cornfields.
Yes, he did indeed. To the NHL tonight, it's Game 4. Vegas with the victory the other night. You got the 4-0 lead. Carolina comes surging. You get it in OT. Shea Theodore off the back wall, and Bussy handling business for the Hurricanes. Game 4 tonight. What excites you about this 2-1 lead for Vegas, but an opportunity in the 7-0-2 tonight for Carolina to even up this series?
High-end sports activity, elite players playing at an elite level. And the first 3 games in this series and the first 3 games in the NBA Finals have all been absolutely fantastic. Like I said earlier, the Spurs were leading the Knicks in games 1 and 2 with less than 2 minutes to go in the game, and they took L's.
Yeah.
So the resolve of the Spurs last evening that resonated with me. And Carolina, when it was down 4-0, to score all those goals in such a short amount of time, force that double overtime. I mean, they both have a 7-game feel to them. I think more in the Stanley Cup final than in the NBA.
Yeah.
But we'll see, Davey. It's learning about so many players who have names that we have seen and may know from Box in the Box.
Yeah.
But just like seeing them execute their toil in hot situations and come through or fail.
Yeah.
Like Wemby in game 2. All right, Wemby's the bomb. Got some HOF to him, right?
Of course, yes.
Yeah, Wemby got some HOF to him. All right, well, at the end of the game, he couldn't do any more to lose it than when he's throwing the ball to Stephon Castle's back and then fouling a guy, put him on the line to lose the lead. So, no matter what status level it's perceived you have, pressure's not for everybody. And the thing is, when it is hot and you do fail, how do you respond? His squad responded with a victory. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It is cool. And, last night, what did you, I always thought the Knicks were going to find that shot last night, and then they didn't.
Right.
Was there anything you saw? Because I thought Cat had his worst game of the series. And I did mention that on X, where he had at least he had to have 2 or 3 steals on the stat sheet last night. Mm-hmm. Defensively, that was the Cat that we've been talking about. That next step in his career. We got all that and more last night.
Yeah.
But man, he was clomping around offensively.
Cat's,
just couldn't find space or a shot.
Cat's passing last night. Now, you were gone. Finchy was in here, and he said Karl Anthony Towns' passing is elite. And that's what he's seen with Cat in the postseason. They still text and talk more than people know. All right, well, Spurs know that too. So they ran a guy at him every single time he got the ball.
Yeah.
But the guy would run at him, and then he'd pick up his dribble, and the guy would run away to cover somebody. So there was off what you just said about what excites me about tonight, old dogs learning new tricks as these dogs continue to battle, because that was new. Cat got doubled. Yeah. It wasn't Brunson. Now Brunson will get doubled past half court, but that's a Spurs thing. They were doing it to Anthony Edwards all the time. I heard Double T talk to you about it on a vocal maintenance day. Well, that's a bit with them. So they put Cat on a bad game. Or a mediocre game because they took away his passing before. So in other words, if I take away something your team needs, I believe it will take away from what you believe you need to help, and that's scoring.
Yeah.
Has Cat hit a 3-pointer the entire series? No, honestly, he may not have. I mean, they've constructed this thing defensively, so they're limiting his 3-point shooting opportunities. I mean, this side of Dirk Nowitzki, and Kevin Love, he's top 3 big man 3-point shooter in the history of the NBA. He might not have hit a 3-pointer the entire series. So there's that. Secondly, I don't know if Stephon Castle is a rolling ball of butcher knives in whom I need to believe, or if he lacks discipline and is so out of control you can't play him the final 3 minutes of the game. He takes some of the stupidest shots where he's just dead set and determined to get to the basket no matter who's covering me because I'm strong and I'm nimble and I can dribble with both hands. He tried to shoot him out of it last night. So what's the coach do? Out, yanked, and he had Fox, Vassell, and Dylan Harper running the backcourt. So it's fascinating watching the development of Stephon Castle. I think he's going to be good. Can't shoot from 3. But, he was wild last night, man. So I'm really enjoying both these series.
Yeah, the minutia of both these series, digging deeply into it. That's News du Nord, brought to you by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com.
It's 11 o'clock. This is 9 to noon on FM 100.3 KFAN.
This is 9 to noon on The Fan.
From the